take a picture. I don't see that he's robbing the store. I just see a picture of a young man. I don't know who it is.
Images, you say.
Yeah, there's still images. I don't know who this. You know, I can't identify who this is, and I don't think anyone
show the contact between him and another individual.
Right. It doesn't appear to be a robbery. It appears that someone's walking in the store and standing there. So, I think that they're trying to cover up for this police officer. I think that they're tarnishing this young man's name, and.
How do you feel about what you think happened, or how this has all unfolded?
Expected. I think why we came out like we did, why the people of Ferguson and other people from the surrounding areas came out like we did, is because we felt like there was going to be an injustice, and I think we knew. And so it's one of those things that you knew that they were going to lie. You felt that they were going to lie about this, and I think they're covering up a lot of things. They're covering up this officer, and it's unfortunate.
Does what happened here with the announcement of the officer's name now, with the release of these documents, help or hurt the situation as it stands? I mean, I know the police chief this morning said they're trying to be transparent, and this was a symbol of that, he felt.
No, I feel like it hurts it, because initially, why wasn't this said? Why now? Why on Friday? Almost a week later, we're hearing that supposedly, you know, there was a robbery, and you have the 911 call, and you have these pictures and things. Why now? Why wasn't it said in the beginning? If it was anyone else, we would know that day.
Do you feel like what happened last night with the calm being restored to this community, is what happened today going to change that tone that was established last night?
I hope not. I think everyone will still be calm. I think the police and all the force with the snipers and the tear gas and all that stuff had people a little upset and frustrated and angry and things, because they were coming at them. They weren't de-escalating the situation at all. I think I was out here last night. I was also in front of the Ferguson police station last night, and I didn't see anything that was not calm. It seemed to be pretty peaceful, and I think everyone will be the same way tonight. We want justice. I think people will be upset, rightfully so. I'm upset. I think that as long as we don't have that threat of K9 dogs and snipers and things facing us, then I think people will be the same way they were last night.
And be peaceful.
And be peaceful. I think people will definitely be upset. Now, I can't answer for how some people will react, but I think for a majority, a lot of people will be peaceful.
All right. Well, we really appreciate your time. I'm not using your name because I know you asked me not to, but thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
All right. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Best of luck to you and to your community here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The officer that was involved in the shooting of Michael Brown was Darren Wilson. He's been a police officer for 6 years, has had no disciplinary action taken against him. He was treated for injuries which occurred on Saturday.
Jackson passed out to reporters in Ferguson, and you can see a young man who appears to be Michael Brown, as Don Lemon pointed out, wearing the same outfit that Michael Brown was wearing on that Saturday, and it appears that there is some sort of scuffle taking place in this convenience store. I want to bring in Gene Casares right now. Supposedly, this was termed a strong armed robbery, and allegedly Michael Brown was stealing cigars. So what do these pictures definitively tell you, if anything?
Well, first of all, it's an excellent surveillance camera. I mean, how many times are they blurry? And this is a really strong and photographic image of a strong arm robbery. Because remember, when you're looking at a deadly weapon, it can be your fist, it can be your hand. And what I find interesting is we had heard, and the police chief said today, that the officer was treated for injuries. What we had heard was that Michael Brown had pushed him in the face, and one side of his face was swollen. If you look at these pictures, the modus operandi is somewhat similar, right? You see the hand going to the side of the face of who I believe is the store clerk in that. I think there are still some issues, though, because even if the law says that you're justified in killing someone because of a public threat, an imminent public threat, he was unarmed. And so I think there's still that issue that will continue on, even if he is the suspect.
And when the dispatch call came out, they termed it a strong arm robbery, which means that the robbery suspect was not armed with a weapon. So the officer would have known that.
But it also shows that it's a violent struggle, and violence can produce death. So it's more than just a shoplifting scenario.
Gotcha. Okay, I want to go to Tom.
Agreed upon by everyone. These two young men were walking down the street, and a police officer came along in his vehicle and told them to get off of the street. Everyone seems to agree on this general notion of what happened here. But then the stories diverge, and they diverge dramatically. The police version, Carol, the police version is that Brown confronted the officer in his car. As the officer attempted to try to get out of the car, he pushed the door back into the officer and then struck the officer at some point through the window, attacked him, and tried to take the officer's gun. This is the police version. Then, as he began to run away, the officer pursued him and shot him about 35 feet away from the vehicle. That is the police version. Now, the version told by other witnesses on the street is very different. What they say happened was that the officer basically turned his car around here and blocked both these young men, and he opened his door into them, that he tried to push them back with the door as he emerged from the car. Then, when he couldn't do that, the witnesses say he reached out and grabbed Brown and tried to yank him in, sort of choking him, pulling him toward the car, and said he was going to shoot him. The gun went off once. The police also agreed the gun went off once before the officer left the car. Then they say that the witnesses say that Brown ran away 35 feet away. The officer was still shooting at him, and Brown turned around and raised his hands. That's when he was shot and killed. All of this, Carol, of course, has to be put into one bit of context here that I just want to bring up because I think it does matter. Think about this community and all the unrest that followed. Would all of this follow one event if there were not a lot around it? Maybe not. And here's what's around it that seems to be keying an awful lot of the mistrust you've heard from guests and from everyone else. Look at this. Ferguson is a town that has had a big demographic shift over a number of decades here. The population is now 2/3 black, and yet the majority of all officials in the area are white. They've been able to, through the political system and through campaigning, to win most of the offices and be in charge of many things there. And importantly, the police department, overwhelmingly white.
About it, Anna. Yeah, it's an organized protest already, Carol, and they are chanting, "What do you want? Justice. When do you want it now?" And you can see a large group. They're walking with their hands up, a symbol we've seen as they reference what witnesses have said happened when Michael Brown was shot, that he had his hands up in a sign of surrendering when the police officer pulled the trigger. Forgive the many screens that are in front of our camera's view. There are understandably several media outlets here, and they have screens blocking sunshine and that type of thing. But this is an organized protest that's happening already. So we are seeing this new information igniting more passion here in the community. So far, we're only seeing peaceful protests, but with a lot of emotion, Carol.